Questions for reflection. In the excerpt from the Apostle Paul's letter to the Corinthians, which we heard for our first reading, we need to remember that much of this letter is the apostle helping these early believers to understand the authentic Christian faith. Some had fallen for the lies of false teachers who claimed to have a, quote, hidden wisdom, in Greek gnosis. Some of these false teachers undermined Paul's authority. So, the apostle explains, and I quote, "I did not come with any brilliance of oratory or wise argument to announce to you the mystery of God. I was resolved that the only knowledge I would have while I was with you was knowledge of Jesus and of Him as the crucified Christ. I came among you in weakness and fear and great trembling, and what I spoke and proclaimed was not meant to convince by philosophical argument, but to demonstrate the convincing power of the Spirit, so that your faith should depend not on human wisdom, but on the power of God," end quote. So it is with us. Our faith must rest on the power of God. That power is still at work. Jesus is not dead. He has been raised. He continues His redemptive mission in and through His mystical body, the church. His grace is mediated to us through the sacraments. Do we frequent them? He speaks to us through His Word. Do we read it? David read His Word. In fact, he kept it always before him, as we heard in our responsorial psalm. Quote, "How I love your law. I ponder it all day long. You make me wiser than my enemies by your commandment, which is mine forever. I'm wiser than all my teachers because I ponder your instructions. I have more understanding than the aged because I keep your precepts. I restrain my foot from evil paths to keep your word," end quote. Let us imitate David and St. Paul. In today's gospel, the evangelist Luke tells us that Jesus returned to Galilee, quote, "in the power of the Spirit." He went to the synagogue in Nazareth, which he attended growing up. He picked up the scroll which contained a particular prophecy of Isaiah concerning the promised Messiah. And he proclaimed these words, and I quote, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He has anointed me to bring glad tidings to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, and to proclaim a year acceptable to the Lord," end quote. Then the evangelist continues, quote, "Rolling up the scroll, he handed it back to the attendant and sat down, and the eyes of all in the synagogue looked intently at him. He said to them, 'Today this scripture passage is fulfilled in your hearing.' And all spoke highly of him and were amazed at the gracious words that came from his mouth," end quote. Wow. What a scene that must have been. What holy boldness and confidence in His redemptive mission Jesus showed. Of course, those in attendance were initially amazed. Yet, the amazement turned to rage, and they attempted to throw Him off a cliff and kill Him. Jesus knew His redemptive mission. From that day forward, He set about living it. Do we know our mission? Are we exhibiting a holy boldness in undertaking it?